Did you know the volcanoes that never erupted might hold the keys to finding some of the largest gold deposits on the planet? There is one public company that is exploring these so-called breccias in South America. We invite you to find out more about this extraordinary approach and how you can profit from their outstanding strategy on juniorstocks.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this special interview. Today we have a returning guest to the show, Rob Kirby of Kirby Analytics, located at kirbyanalytics.com. And I got to tell you, 2020 might be coming to an end, but we may also be in store for some serious fireworks before it's all over. From an election that's still openly disputed and contested, to a new wave of shutdowns that are crushing the hopes and dreams of the middle class, to a communist Chinese party that's seemingly infiltrating everything everywhere. It's all one hot mess right now. So what we need to do is step outside of the box and step outside of the mainstream. And we need to find some meaning in all of this to figure out where we are and where we might be going. And I can't think of a better person than Rob Kirby to help us do that. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. Rob, I'd like to thank you for joining us again on Silver Doctors.
It's my pleasure, Paul. And I don't know whether to say Merry Christmas to you and all your watchers, listeners, or whether to say Merry Bitcoin at this point. It certainly isn't Merry Gold. Let's put it that way.
It's not.
And I haven't even checked the price of gold yet today. But let's just say the cryptoverse is doing pretty well.
Cryptoverse is doing pretty well. I won't say Merry Bitcoin because I could get into that left and right 1,000 times over. But anyway, that's we might get into that later if you want. But let's start off with the election here, Rob, because
Sure.
you know the election is still not over technically. We've had the Electoral College vote, but like apparently there's another date coming up in early January. Then there's the inauguration on the 20th. Let me just make one point here real quick, Rob. Both sides think that their side won, and one side is going to be let down majorly. And my concern now is, well, what happened if for some reason Trump does stay in office? Couldn't they just pull like a Maduro on him, and then all of a sudden we're totally a banana republic where they refuse to recognize Trump, where all the rest of the world leaders are recognizing Biden, and it's just even more of a mess at that point? Or how do you see the election playing out at this point? Are you still hopeful that Trump could become president, reelected, or what are you thinking now, Rob?
My personal opinion is that there is not a chance that Biden will be ever installed as president of your country. My belief is that the Insurrection Act will be invoked and there will be military tribunals and Trump will remain as president, period. That's what I feel will happen. Otherwise, your republic is finished. It's gone. So that's where my head's at, and we'll see how it plays out. Plain and simple.
It's very interesting because, one of the things that I can see if Trump stays in office here is, the riots and the civil unrest and the looting and all that stuff.
No, that's coming.
Starts up.
Absolutely, that's coming. Yeah. No, I've resigned myself to believing that is in fact what will occur. But bring it on. It has to happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, otherwise the whole world has become a communist totalitarian state, period. End of story. So, and I don't think that's the way the story ends. I think the republic will live. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. And I might be wrong, but that's my opinion.
Very interesting. It's definitely setting the stage for a few weeks here that is just going to be, potential fireworks here if what you're talking about pans out.
Absolutely, there's going to be fireworks. Sure.
But let's take on this, communist totalitarian takeover because, about a year ago, I don't know if it was 2018 now, I remember the Shanghai Gold Exchange started doing cash-settled futures contracts with the CME Group, which basically meant that the PBOC, which sets the Shanghai Gold Exchange benchmark rate, was basically infiltrating the U.S. gold market. I guess now there's China training military troops in Canada, and then I guess now there's Chinese Communist Party officials that have just infiltrated the entire United States. So, like what is going on now? Why is China all of a sudden on the radar, and what are we supposed to understand from all of this, Rob?
Well, you see, Paul, in my view and in my world, what has happened in the last 4 months is pretty much as follows. China used to buy with their unwanted dollars, China used to buy gold. And buying gold, if from a Chinese perspective, buying gold did not really make you or put you in a better place, other than you got some gold, because they were buying physical gold. But when China buys gold, what they're really doing is handing their dollars to people who mine gold, because they weren't buying futures. They were buying it from, basically they were buying it from the source, like from the, we call it buying from the pit. And when they give those dollars to the miners or the resource developers, those guys were sinking the dollars back into the ground or into exploration to create more gold. And they continued to buy, like, it was a positive, let's just say this, Paul, it was a positive feedback loop where the dollars kept being recycled basically back into the ground, but it was a positive feedback loop for the dollar. So the Chinese, in my view, what they've done, probably about 4 months ago, when we saw this amazing decoupling of gold from Bitcoin or crypto, the Chinese started buying crypto, specifically Bitcoin. They started buying Bitcoin and they started paying for their oil in Bitcoin. And they have been paying for their oil in Bitcoin. So the people that are on the other side of that trade are the likes of Iran and Venezuela, who are happy to take Bitcoin for their oil because they've been excluded due to American sanctions. They've been excluded from the dollar trade. So with their newly acquired Bitcoin from a willing recipient or willing provider in China, they take the Bitcoin that they get for their oil and they recycle the Bitcoins back to China for goods and services that China can provide, because they can't pay for anything in dollars because they've been excluded from the dollar trade. Excuse me. So this creates a negative feedback loop for the dollar and a positive feedback loop for Bitcoin or crypto. Let's just say crypto. Instead of, making this all about Bitcoin, it's really about the cryptoverse, and it's really about the reset, Paul. The reset's occurring. The world has learned, due to American imperialism and arrogance and stupidity, by imposing sanctions on major players in the world, people have learned to adapt and cope and deal with the fact that they've been excluded from the dollar system. And now people are recirculating currency, which is Bitcoin, in a way that America can't touch. And America cannot touch what is occurring right now. This is why Bitcoin has doubled and gold has gone down. This is why the dollar index is at multi-year lows currently and will go lower, because America is giving up what's called seigniorage. Seigniorage is the benefit that accrues to a reserve currency. And I mean, it's happening in spades in front of our eyes. I mean, I can see it. This is going on, and it's intensifying as we move along the timeline here. So, I mean, America, interestingly, is accusing China of being involved in their elections. I'm not saying they weren't, but I mean, isn't it interesting, Paul, how you can overlay the failure of the currency unit with accusations that China was involved in rigging the election? And all I'm saying, it's convenient. It's astoundingly interesting, the timing. Mm-hmm. So I don't believe anything I'm told by the mainstream press, never have, or haven't for a very, very long time. So I don't know whether or not, or to what extent, China may or may not have been involved in the election. I mean, the election theft, in my view, is absolutely a Democrat wet dream. But to what extent China had direct involvement, I don't know. But it's all going to come out in the wash anyway, because I don't believe the Democrats are ever going to be seated in the executive, period, in your country. In my view, the military option will be invoked, and it will happen, and America's going to get cleaned up, because it must, because that's the way I think the story ends. America gets cleaned up and continues as a viable republic.
Well, I hope you're right for the sake of the republic as far as that goes. And on that note, it's not like one of these things where we're going to have to wait 10 years in the future to see if it pans out. No, we're talking about something that's weeks away here, Rob.
Oh, yeah, next 30 days. Mm-hmm. Sure, next 30 days. It all plays out in the next 30 days, Paul.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to push back on Bitcoin, but I think we just end up arguing because there's so many things I want to say.
To me, there's no argument. There's no argument at all, Paul. Mm-hmm. I mean, 3.5 months ago, gold was at 10,000 or 9,000 and change, and gold was at 1,900. Mm-hmm. And where are they today?
Well,
tell me.
Well, I mean, Bitcoin's measured in dollars, right? And it's debt-based because you have to have energy to keep growing that exponential ledger that they have there. I don't know. We can get into Bitcoin another day. Like I said, we'll just probably end up arguing about that. But I mean, I find it convenient that they're letting. I think that they're letting Bitcoin run again. That's what I think that they're letting it happen, right? Because silver is measured in ounces by purity. Gold is measured in ounces by purity. Bitcoin is measured in dollars by the ever-expanding ledger.
No, but I mean, Paul, gold and silver are both measured in dollars. You're correct. Mm-hmm. But Bitcoin's measured in dollars too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Everything's measured in dollars. And the reason, Paul, everything is measured in dollars, and probably soon to be formally measured in dollars, is because America has had the privilege, or has the seigniorage has accrued to the dollar. Seigniorage, in my view, is now accruing to Bitcoin. And that's what's occurring, because Bitcoin is being used in international trade for settlement. And I mean, you can deny that that's occurring. You see, when we were on a gold standard, international trade accounts were settled in gold. Mm-hmm. But that's not occurring right now. I'm not saying it won't occur in the future. I think we will ultimately get back there, which is why I haven't thrown in the towel on physical precious metal. But I'm avidly against owning futures, COMEX, LBMA. It's a fraud. Mm-hmm. So, you see, what has transpired is a workaround due to the fraud. Mm-hmm. But just as I think the American Republic will continue, I think gold and silver will reclaim their position in the monetary state of affairs, which is why you must own them. Because I don't know what day that's going to occur, Paul. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, it seems that Bitcoin or crypto is the emerging new way to settle international trade accounts. And that's going on. Yes, there's institutional money that's flown into crypto at the expense of gold. The news is chock full of pronouncements by the likes of Paul Tudor Jones, Ray Dalio, all of the big hedge fund operators. They're all coming around to making proclamations that Bitcoin is the new gold. And whether it remains the new gold or whether that position is cemented further in the future, I don't know. I'm just reporting what I see. And what I see is, for now, Bitcoin is ascending. And crypto is ascending to a new position in the global settlement atmosphere. Let's just say that. I mean, it's occurring. You can ignore it if you want. And I mean, being willfully ignorant of it and not acknowledging what's occurring, if that's what floats your boat, then all the power to you. I mean, the world doesn't care. The world needs to survive. You see, I think it's amazing because people who are anti the alternative press often makes the I still want to use my wooden spoon and bang my pots and pans to tell people about sound money. And gold and silver are sound money. But they always will be sound money, Paul. That's not going to ever be it's not going to be an unfact. It's a reality. Gold and silver are money. They will always be money. But they might not be used just as the dollar was basically the fiat dollar as we have known it. It's a fraud. It's a fraud that's been perpetrated on humanity. But I mean, it stood as the standard for global trade settlement for many, many years, even though it was a fraud. So crypto can do the same thing. It can stand for longer than you and I have patience or resources to wish it not to be so. I'm just observing what I see. That's all I'm doing.
Very interesting.
I'm just a watcher. I watch and report. And that's all I'm doing. And right now, the prospects going forward for crypto look rather bright. And, you know, in nominal terms, at the exact moment we're recording this, the prospects for precious metal don't look great. What is going to make the prospects for precious metal look great is when China turns their focus back from buying crypto and initiating or making crypto the medium of international exchange with people that have been excluded. You see, I want people to understand the gravity of what's occurring. Like, America's devolution of their currency is all self-inflicted. I mean, it's the other edge of the you know, you've heard the cliche. It's a double-edged knife. Like, it cuts both ways. You see, when you cut a chunk of the world off of your reserve currency, namely the dollar, people will be resentful that has occurred, and they will find a workaround. And the workaround might be detrimental to the person who's inflicting the pain. And that's exactly what's happened. Should we be surprised? Would you act any differently if this was being done to you? And that's over and above what's happened in the election and whether or not China has been involved in the election outcome. And I suspect completely that they have. But you see, there are multiple wars being fought here on different fronts. And one is the currency. Yes, there's the geopolitical. You can call it good versus evil if you want. You can give names. You can create names and put monikers and hang monikers on. But the reality is, commerce never stops. Okay, it just continues, and maybe it morphs. Maybe commerce will always continue. And people have said to me in years gone by, people have said to me, well, you talk about gold, there isn't enough gold to facilitate global trade. And I say to them, horse hockey pucks to that. Of course there's enough gold. We're pricing gold the wrong way. Gold should not be priced at $1,900 per ounce. Maybe gold should be priced at $1,900 per gram. And if you price gold at $1,900 per gram, there's lots of gold to facilitate any amount of trade. I mean, you just move the decimal point. I mean, in reality, that's what they've done with the fiat dollar. I mean, in 1920, $20 bought a suit, a belt, and a pair of shoes. You know, the funny thing is, in 1920, $20 bought an ounce of gold. Today, an ounce of gold still buys you a suit, a belt, and a pair of shoes. The price of stuff hasn't really changed in dollars. In gold. It has changed in dollars. And that's because the dollar has been printed into oblivion, which has necessitated an alternative to dollars. And because the powers that be didn't want that to be gold at the present time, they found an alternative. Meet Bitcoin. And here it is, and it's doing what gold should be doing. Well, and silver. It's doing exactly what they should be doing. But the powers that be, in their infinite wisdom, said, no, that's not going to happen. Okay, so we found an alternative.
Yeah, my problem is I understand too much tech, right? I understand the tech behind it, so I don't know.
I'm just saying what I see. It's reality.
So no, that's good. That's good. Mm-hmm. It's good to have healthy discussion about this. Definitely. You know, speaking with silver here for a second, Rob. What are the prospects of silver? You know, if it's funny because
the prospects, Paul, for silver are amazingly brilliant. And people who own silver or people who are contemplating owning silver should continue to stack. But don't go near the futures market. Stack physical metal, gold, silver. Stack it. Continue stacking it. You know, buying silver today is like buying Bitcoin at $20.
Mm-hmm. They could take down Bitcoin's network, and then you would still have that silver, but you wouldn't have your Bitcoin any longer.
Yeah, you know, listen. The funny thing is, I remember, in all honesty, Paul, I remember very, very well Max Kaiser telling me to buy Bitcoin when it was $1. And my retort to him, and that was about 10 years ago, and I said to him, "Have you not heard of an internet kill switch?" Mm-hmm. Because that was something Mr. Barry Soetoro used to speak of, the internet kill switch, amongst other killings that he did and bragged about. So, you know, yeah, the internet kill switch is still out there. I believe it exists. And frankly, if Mr. Biden is ever sworn in as president, there's no doubt in my mind that the people who control the strings that he's attached to may very well invoke the internet kill switch and may very well destroy the cryptoverse.
Yeah.
But what comes on the other side of that, I don't know. It might be anarchy. It might be a global conflict militarily. I don't know. But let's just say for now, the markets speak.
Yeah, I'm not nagging it in that sense. I think Bitcoin is great if you want to gamble in a rigged casino. That's how I look at it as. I look at it as a ragtag militia, and it's trying to go up against the U.S. military, and no militia would go toe-to-toe with U.S. military because they would get obliterated before they even realized they were in the fight. I think they can attack Bitcoin's network. People like to talk about it decentralized, but really it's one ledger. It's a centralized ledger. The Bitcoin network, it can be attacked.
It's not. No, Paul. Bitcoin is not centralized, period. It is
No.
decentralized.
Well, the ledger is one ledger.
It's the whole
out.
DeFi. It's the whole DeFi movement. The whole DeFi movement, and what gives this movement power is the fact that it is decentralized. It is not centralized.
It's like a BitTorrent. I understand how the tech works.
It's peer-to-peer. Paul, it's peer-to-peer, the way it's currently incarnated. It's peer-to-peer.
Yeah, but if you want to do more than just one person to one person handing over a flash drive, you got to get on Bitcoin's ledger, which is decentralized, but it's still one ledger, Bitcoin's ledger. It's 315 gigabytes currently. It was less than 100 in 2017. It's based on unsustainable exponential growth, and Bitcoin is debt-based, meaning you have to have energy and network connectivity and computer processing power at ever-growing exponential rates. I think we're letting Bitcoin
I hear you,
run.
Paul. Paul, I hear what you're saying, but for humanity to continue, we have to have energy. Right. So there will continue to be energy. Period. And my belief, frankly, at the current time, even though I didn't always think this way, I think there will always be an internet or something resembling the internet. Because, frankly, Paul, governments are dependent on the internet to function themselves. So if they shut the internet down, governments cease to function. And that's not going to happen, I don't think.
Right, but they can shut parts down, and we see that all the time. And whenever they seize websites, they can destroy Bitcoin's network at the flip of a switch. But anyway, I don't want to get into it. Like I said, there's no need to argue it.
Well, no, it's all good.
It's so divided one way or another. Let's talk about Main Street for a second here, Rob, because the last time we had spoke, you were right. You were spot on. And I keep bringing this up every time, but you're like, isn't it funny that whenever they're trying to give out these stimulus checks to the people, there's just not enough money. And sure enough, we're sitting here in the middle of December and they still can't come to an agreement, Rob. Now, on top of that, unemployment claims have been on the rise, if you believe the numbers and have faith in them, for the last 4 weeks in a row. So that's getting worse. We've got rolling lockdowns and rolling shutdowns and rolling curfews all across the United States. So it's really a mixed bag here.
Well,
now they're saying,
a mixed bag, yeah. But, isn't it interesting, Paul, amid all the shutdowns, well noted, increase in unemployment claims, well noted, the equity markets continue to make record highs. Does that make any sense at all? Not on my planet.
If this is the beginning of the hyperinflation, then it would make sense.
Well, here.
Possibly. Because my point of that is so just what is your outlook for Main Street and the main economy, I guess is my question. Because they say, well, eat outside. And I'm thinking, it snowed here. Right. So who's going to eat outside in a snowstorm? Right. The waiter comes out from in the restaurant, and by the time the food gets to your table, it's already cold. Right. And it's snowing, and nobody's going to want to do these things. So and then, and we also talked about, just the crack up boom in general the last time we spoke. The newest thing now is, for example, graphics cards and Xboxes and PlayStations. The price you see on Walmart.com on the screen is $499. If you want to buy it, they're all day long on eBay for $800 to $1,000. So there's just disconnects everywhere. So Absolutely. I'm not seeing Main Street getting better at all. So what is your assessment of Main Street, Rob?
I ditto your comments. I mean, what's amazing, Paul? I'm seeing the same thing you're seeing through my set of eyes as you're seeing through yours. I mean, we have. When it comes to this virus and vaccines that are appearing now on the horizon and are being, isn't it interesting, Paul? Most of the places where I get my information are telling me that people, particularly first or frontline responders, they don't want to take the vaccine. Yet the media is trying to give us a story that vaccine is in short supply and people are lining up for it, Paul. Mm-hmm. The funny thing is, Paul, I live in the real world still. Hopefully I continue to, for me. And I interact with people who are nurses, who are doctors, who are policemen, who are firefighters. None of them want to take the vaccine. But if you turn on CNN, all you hear are bleats all day long about who the lucky ones are who are going to get the very dear first allocations of the vaccine. And they create media events showing the first person who gets the vaccine shot, and they typically put minorities as being, because we now live in a culture where we're taught to worship, and because there's this hatred for anyone white, particularly anyone who's male, anyone who's Christian, and they parade us with and to create a false narrative. It's the same thing as the false narrative that Joe Biden rightfully won the election. It's poppycock. It's a lie. It's a planted narrative they wish to have us all believe. Because if we don't all buy in and get the shot, Paul, we won't all die. And this entire thing about, the vaccine, it's a eugenics operation, Paul. The goal of globalists is global population reduction, one world currency. The elimination of religion, and it's not just Christianity they're after. You see, these people are equal opportunity haters. You see, they hate Christianity, they hate Islam, they hate Judaism. They want people to worship the state. They want one world currency, one world religion, and dramatic population reduction. That's their goal. It's stated in white papers for the last 60 years, Paul. They brag about it. And this is what they're up to. So, all I'm saying is I'm observing this and I'm reporting on it. That's all I'm doing. I don't make the rules. I try to follow them and be observant of them, period. Nothing else.
So how do we move forward from this, Rob? Because it's like, back in March, right? Back in March, that one person that would be in Costco with the mask on and gloves, and they got the evil eye and they got the stares. But now it's that one person without the mask in Costco that gets the evil eyes and that gets the stares. And it's just like, we are so divided on absolutely everything right now, from the election to the pandemic. Like, how do we even move forward?
Well, how do we move forward? Well, to begin with, I think we can be observant of what's actually occurring around us. Back in March, China was happy to take the dollars they didn't want and buy gold. Clearly, that's not the case anymore, at least in my world. Clearly, what China's doing is they've refocused their attention on doing something that's more anti-dollar than buying gold. You see, a lot of people think buying gold is anti-dollar. And in a very narrow sense, it might be. But understand that when you buy gold, you're effectively funding the people who create gold, who are going to reinvest those dollars to make even more gold. It's a positive feedback loop for the dollar. And China has finally come to the point, I believe. Yes, and don't think I'm being dismissive of the fact that there's institutional money flowing into crypto, because there is. But my question is, it's almost like a chicken and egg argument. What came first, the chicken or the egg? And what I'm stating is I believe that the institutional demand for crypto wouldn't be there unless somebody was using it as trade settlement vehicle. And that is occurring, okay? We're only hearing about it anecdotally because there aren't a lot of figures published on how much stuff internationally is being settled in crypto. But it is occurring. And it's occurring because people have been cut off from doing trade in dollars. It's really effectively it's like the whole argument of whether commerce dies if the dollar dies. Of course commerce continues because, I mean, you see, Paul, ultimately we go back to barter. I mean, if you take dollars away from the world will continue to trade. Whether it's in barter or whether they use Bitcoin to settle international trade is irrelevant. Commerce will always continue. And people make the mistake of thinking or attaching dollars to trade. And without dollars, you can't have trade. That's ridiculous. We had trade long before the dollar was ever created, and we will have trade long after the dollar's gone. How we settle those accounts is open for discussion. But trade will continue.
You had mentioned the egg, and I think that's a great analogy. Let me throw mine out at you real quick, Rob, if I can.
Sure.
I think that, like, when it continues, just like those sea turtles hatch from an egg on the beach and they know how to get to the ocean, I think that we know that what do you continue with will be gold and silver because it's in our DNA, that's what we were used.
I don't argue with you. I think we ultimately get back there too, which is why I am adamant that you still have to own them. You have to own them and you have to hold them. And you especially want to own them when their price is artificially depressed. You see, I view what's occurred in recent times as a tremendous buying opportunity to scale into even more metal. But at the same time, I'm just saying, you know, because a chunk of the global population has been cut off from trading in dollars, they found something different to settle their trade in. Mm-hmm. And for the time being, that's crypto, for the time being. And that's occurring. So, I mean, you know, maybe America should think about removing the sanctions because it really has come around to smack them in the face. You know, cutting people, when you are the possessor of the world's reserve currency, and if you tell half the world they can't trade in your currency, they'll find a different way to conduct trade. And that's what's happened. And it's going on and it will continue. So maybe you might want to think about being a little more inclusive with your global reserve currency. Is my point. And you see, the seigniorage that used to accrue exclusively to the dollar is now accruing to crypto. That's why the price is running up. It's seigniorage. We are seeing a living, walking, talking example of seigniorage and the benefits that accrue to a settlement mechanism, whether it's dollars or, you know, or whether it was the pounds, sterling years gone by. Seigniorage accrues to the settlement mechanism, period. Whether it's pounds, whether it's dollars, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's, you know, whether it's goat droppings. If it's used in trade settlement, seigniorage will accrue to it. Period. You know, you can deny that at your own peril because that's what's going on. It's happening. We're watching it happen every day. So I just say get jiggy with it. Like, now, that's all. Just get jiggy with what's actually happening. I mean, if somebody's digging holes in your backyard, you should make a note of that. Period. I'm not talking about the merits or whether someone should dig holes in your backyard. I'm just saying, if it's happening, take note. Because I think a lot of holes are being dug in America's backyard, and America's oblivious to it. Frankly, that's what I think. That's occurring. You know, the election, whether it's the election hole, whether it's the workarounds for people who've been excluded from the dollar settlement mechanism, you know, just pay attention. It's, you know, it's not, you know, the cliche, it's not rocket science. Okay? When you tell people they can't trade in dollars, you really expect that they're just going to sit there and die on the vine and not trade. Right. No, people will continue. You know why, Paul? We either continue to trade and live on, or we die. And people, amazing when they're faced with that proposition, most people choose to continue to live. Yeah. And they find different ways to trade. That's all we're seeing manifest itself right now.
So it seems like crypto is so very much on your radar right now, but I guess
no, metals are on my radar too. Like, you know, I don't exclude one. I don't say sell your gold and buy crypto. Hell no, I don't say that. If anything, I'm really saying the opposite. What I'm saying is crypto's run up dramatically. If you're long a ton of crypto, you might want to think about trimming that position and buying something that's cheap, relatively. Silver and gold. They're cheap. I mean, you know, isn't it funny, Paul? Like, if I go to the grocery store and bacon is 29 cents a pound, I don't say, oh, I don't want to buy bacon anymore. I say, frig, I'm going to fill up my freezer. I'm going to take all you have. Well, I view gold and silver the same way. Now, if the market wants to make gold and silver appear like bacon at 29 cents a pound, my attitude is fine, great. How much can I get? And the funny thing is, Paul, if you actually want to buy physical silver, you have trouble filling your freezer because you can't buy that much physical silver. It's still tight. But you can buy all the futures you want. Yeah. Unlimited supply. But try converting it into real stuff that you can take home and put in the closet or bury somewhere in a hole. You can't get it. Okay? So the world's coping with that and is acting accordingly.
So just to wrap it up here today, Rob, your outlook for 2021 is hinging on the results of the election, and if it plays out how you think it's going to play out, then it's a positive outlook here coming into the new year. Could you just kind of wrap up with that there, Rob?
Listen, you know, at this point, the amount of U.S. dollars that are being created doesn't bode well for the dollar. Period. It won't bode well for the dollar at any point in time in the near future, period. Alternatives, I am big on dollar alternatives or anti-dollar trades. And in the anti-dollar trade category, at the top of the list are gold, silver, and crypto, period. You know, best you think that over and get on side with that, because the dollar's days as a viable means to warehouse wealth or well-being are very few going forward. And you want to be long anti-dollar trades. Whether it's crypto, whether it's gold, whether it's silver, and the only caveat I put to that is if you're buying metal, make sure you own physical and not futures. Because ultimately, if you're a holder of futures in the metals category, at some point you will be a bag holder. the person who gets left holding the bag when the system fails completely. I don't want to be in that category. So keep your metals acquisitions or to physical metal, not futures. And frankly, Paul, I don't even know what crypto to recommend to anybody if I'm going to recommend one. I don't know which one to even tell you to buy. And they're at such extremely stretched prices now. You could buy them and they could be at half the price you pay in a few days. So that's the world we're living in right now. It's fraught with danger. It's fraught with not knowing exactly what's going to occur. I mean, we're more than a month after the election, and we still don't know technically. We really don't even know who won. This is a month later.
So just wrapping up here, Rob, I appreciate your time today. Tell viewers and listeners what they can get out of KirbyAnalytics.com.
Well, I mean, what you get from Kirby Analytics is just straight talk on what's happening in the world through my eyes. That's what I report. That's what I talk about. And that's what I'm about. So I don't create the news. I report what's happening, period. That's all I do. And frankly, I don't really want any more anyway, other than to share my view. And, my view comes through my eyes, and hopefully that continues to be. I'm not owned by anyone. I'm not told what I can say or what I can't say. I report what I see, and I talk about what I'm experiencing. And I think that's the way news should be delivered. And I don't know what else to say other than that.
Indeed. And it's interesting because, that's exactly what we need is people who aren't told what they can and can't say, but people choose to say it like they see it. That's exactly what we need more of in this world. Rob, I'd like to thank you for joining us again on Silver Doctors.
It's been my pleasure, Paul.
This interview is presented to you by JuniorStocks.com, your platform for faster investment news.